Hello everyone, I'm Carthu, and today we'll be discussing how Dragon Ball Super broke the Dragon Ball timeline. You see, my timeline video is a general consensus timeline that uses the original manga, guidebooks, super manga, and super anime together to find the most consistent dates for when things occur in the series. This, being a consensus, however, has led to me ignoring glaring issues brought into the timeline by Dragon Ball Super's anime, and even the manga to some degree. So, we'll be discussing all of the issues brought into the Dragon Ball timeline today, and discuss how Dragon Ball Super broke the Dragon Ball timeline. The easiest way to go about this is by going in order. So let's start with the first and one of the most major issues, the use of Shenron. During the Universe 6 tournament arc, there was a hunt for the last Super Dragon Ball before the tournament began. Champa had already collected 6 of them, and Vegeta said that Bulma should be capable of tracking down the planet-sized orb. But before working on a radar, Bulma decides to try a different method for locating the Super Dragon Ball, asking none other than their own dragon, Shenron. Now, this usually isn't a problem in the series. Wishes tend to be made with a couple of years in between them in most cases. However, this time it's an issue. Shenron was used to revive Frieza and grant 2 wishes for the Pilaf gang just a little while ago in Resurrection of F. You see, Resurrection of F was meant to have just happened, but since Shenron is here now, it has to have been a year since Resurrection of F. This pushes the entire timeline back by a year. This change also makes it that the Universe 6 tournament and Goku Black arcs happen in age 780, and the Tournament of Power, Broly, and Moro all happen in age 781. And some of you may be saying, why is this a big deal? Well, it's pretty simple actually. Bra has had an official birth date for a very, very long time now. That birth year is age 780. This oversight retcons her end of Z age and her birth year to age 781 as of now. Now again, that may not necessarily be an issue, but it's pretty weird in the broader context, as this is an anime-only scene, meaning that the Dragon Ball Super manga is still consistent with the original timeline and birth date. Moving on to our next issue, it's exacerbated by the previous issue, but it would still be a problem either way. Let me explain. Simply put, Bulma tells Goku at the end of Z that they haven't seen him for 5 years. If you've been watching my videos regarding character ages and the timeline video that I mentioned previously, the end of Dragon Ball Z happens in age 784, 10 years after the Buu Saga in age 774. So for that line to make any sense at all of Dragon Ball Super needed to have happened before age 779. But it clearly doesn't. If we go by the timeline in the Dragon Ball Super manga, we should be in age 780, in the latest arc that is. And we have been in that age for quite a while actually. This means we're 4 years away from the end of Dragon Ball Z, and Goku has just seen Bulma when they had to handle Broly. In the anime, it's actually a bit worse, because of the previously mentioned Shenron issue. A year added to the timeline, most likely unintentionally as I previously said, has now put the latest arcs into 781, an age later than they should be. This means we are now a year closer to the end of Z, specifically only 3 years are left until then. This is after we have been told multiple times that the end of Z would not be retconned, and so furthers the idea that all of these changes were completely accidental rather than intentional. Finally, we have the opening scenes of Dragon Ball Super Broly, the movie that is. Now, some of you may be thinking that nothing is wrong here, but you would in fact be wrong. You see, this scene with King Cold is before Goku was born and is around the time of Canon Broly and Vegeta's births. This means that this scene should take place in age 732, and as we previously discussed, the anime's additional Shenron usage has put it in age 781, while the Dragon Ball Super manga is in age 780. If you're quick with your subtractions, then you see the problem here. For the anime, this scene should be 49 years in the past, and even if we were trying to retcon the timeline back into its original placement, this scene would be 48 years in the past. What seems to have happened here is a misplacement of numbers, as 41 years ago would make sense for the events of Dragon Ball Minus, the events that occur right after this section of the movie. You see, Minus doesn't take place the year that Goku is born, age 737, instead it should take place 2 to 3 years after that point. And either way you look at it, you could argue that 41 years fits for the Dragon Ball Super manga and anime equally. It would just mean that Goku's age would be different depending on which context you're using. You see, Goku would be 2 when he was sent to Earth in age 739 for the Dragon Ball Super manga, and this fits perfectly with Beerus receiving the Super Saiyan God prophecy from the Oracle Fish, so it makes the most sense in the grander narrative. However, 41 years ago can still make sense for the Shenron issue in the anime. It would mean that Goku was 3 when he was sent to Earth, and this actually lines up perfectly with the Dragon Ball Minus manga, so take that as you will. My final thoughts on this topic are pretty cut and dry. If you are making a story that has large time skips and involves an extensive timeline in general, then make sure you have a document of some sort to go through and keep track of when events should happen. For those of you who've watched my Gohan's Confusing Age video, which is definitely a lot of you just based off the viewer count, thank you so much for watching that as much as you guys did, know the Dragon Ball timeline has been a confusing thing in the series for a long time, before its revival in 2013, that's for sure. When it comes to retcons in the timeline or changes like the Shenron one or the Broly movie misplacing a date, it's easy to forgive those as Toei being Toei, and should a guidebook come out later and say those things were mistakes, we can easily forgive them. However, continuing to make content with Dragon Ball Super in the 10-year time skip between the Buu Saga and the end of Z just flat out makes Bulma a liar, or wrong when she says she hasn't seen Goku in 5 years. And we can't just forgive that as a mistake or filler like we can those other two issues. So for the other two, I would say it's easy to forgive Toei, and a guidebook may come out that includes those retcons. However, my last point of filling the 10-year time skip with just tons of Dragon Ball Super content just to make money off it, I feel like we could just make the story a little bit better and a bit more streamlined if we skip to after the end of Z. But that's just my opinion on that matter. I appreciate you guys watching this one. It's a topic I've been meaning to cover since I made the timeline video, and you guys actually voted to have this video made for today, since my initial plans for today's video would have taken way too long and I would have never gotten it out today, but that video is still in the works, and go check the community tab to see what that video is. I think a lot of you will be interested in it. If you are new here and are interested in more Dragon Ball Timeline stuff, I have my Dragon Ball Timeline Explained video, a video discussing the confusing ages of Gohan and Vegeta, and both of those are actually really good to get into to know how old these characters are, as obviously character designs cannot illustrate how old they are very well. Expect more explained videos in the near future, and some more what ifs as well. I can't wait to see you there. So I forgot to mention this at the end of this video, and I only realized that as I'm editing it. Just so you know, we did post a video regarding the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot giveaway. This video is basically telling you exactly what you need to do to get as many entries as possible, or to just get one if you want to do the only free option of getting entries. This is like a raffle that you would have in a local carnival or something, right? Where your first entry is usually free, but if you want extra entries, you could pay to get extra entries, and that's more so me rewarding the people who have been supporting the channel so graciously in recent times, more so than me saying there's a paywall. There's still plenty of chance for someone who does not pay to win this game, this copy of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And we will be doing a live, smaller giveaway, or giveaways potentially, during the stream and maybe after this big giveaway. So make sure you are at the stream where I do the giveaway. Make sure you have entered all of the ways of entering, and watch the video to make sure you fully understand what's going on. You have the date and everything good to go. Until then, guys, back to the outro.